Yo, 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 welcome to another edition of the Geeky Bros Podcast. I'm your boy Tactix.
And this is Big Geek Umar. How you doing, bro?
I'm doing well. I'm doing real well. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. We're missing, as you can see and hear, we're missing our boy Darcy tonight. He's been indisposed for this week, potentially next week as well, but let's hope not. Nonetheless,
That's for Darcy right there.
Nonetheless, we will continue the show without him, but he is missed, and we will hope for his return very shortly. And also, I just want to point out for those of you who are new to this channel, just a little piece of housekeeping. If you're not watching us live, please check the description below. We're going to have timestamps there for our topics. So if there's a particular topic you want to go to directly, just go down there and click, and you'll be able to get to the section you want to hear about. So T, shall we jump in?
Let's do it.
All right. So is the situation where currently I am the only one out of the Geeky Bros who has seen the Flash movie. We were not able to organize so for all of us to go see it, so therefore we were not able to do an out of the theater reaction. So I decided that I will give a spoiler-free review of the Flash movie. And Tactics, feel free to ask any questions, and if it doesn't violate the whole no spoiler situation, I'll be happy to answer that.
I only have several questions. Question the first, did you like it? Question the second, what would you rate it? Question the third, is the hype real?
Okay, so
I don't like the hesitation, man. Your lack of excitement is worrying me right now.
Okay, so I'm going to answer question 2 first. I would give it a 6.5 out of 10.
Oh my gosh. So that pretty much answers question number 3 then too. The hype ain't real.
Okay, I will say that the critical review is more in line with me, but I did call that ahead of time. I do tend to go with the critics. The early reactions, in my opinion, I'm like, did y'all watch that movie, or were you all high when it happened? Because it does have appeal. I'm not saying it's a bad film. In no way is this a quote unquote bad film. I will call it among the better DCEU films.
Okay, that's not really saying a lot.
No, I heard it once I said it.
Yeah.
It's okay. I will say I was fine with it because the movie for me was incredibly erratic. It went from really awesome, good, cool points that had me jumping in my seat, to really dumb fucking moments that I'm like, what? To kind of middle ground stuff. I'm just like, okay. I see what they're doing there. So it kind of was like that the entire film. So it's kind of hard for me to enjoy it when I'm just like, oh. And then it goes remember The Amazing Spider-Man 2? That thing was like sharpened up and sharpened down like crazy. Mm-hmm. This was a little bit more. This was like this. Mm-hmm. So I was just kind of like,
well, I mean, that is how Flash moves, so it makes sense.
Yeah. So okay, I will say there is one element that is relatively consistent in the DCEU, and now that I've seen this movie, I will say it has remained consistent. The characters of who they really are isn't really portrayed in the movies. This is a Barry Allen. Ezra Miller did his version of Barry Allen. It's not really Barry Allen. Also, I will say this. Ezra Miller started to really freaking annoy me. I was hanging in there for the first part of the movie, but once the midpoint happened, I'm like, oh, for fuck's sakes, can this person please stop talking?
Which Ezra Miller? Which one?
The Flash.
No, but there's 2 of them in there. Which one?
You'll really both.
Got you. Okay.
They were going for his slapstick humor, and it felt so overdone. It was frustrating. Also, yes, if it was consistent with his character. I'm not going to not knock them for that, but the character itself was frustrating and annoying, and like the only interesting parts were the fact of when you see the difference in characterizations. That is impressive acting from Ezra Miller. Not enough to like bank an entire franchise on them, but that was all right. But like, oh my god, like it was so frustrating, and I actually didn't like the character, and also the character was making a lot like in the consistency of the character, they were making decisions that you can say is consistent. But for me, I'm like, there's no growth here because every time they would learn something, it would mean nothing. So that was frustrating. And also the lack of care for civilians and the wanton killing that was taking place from the heroes, it still irks me. Like even to this day, we're 10 years later and this still bothers me.
It's like the Man of Steel effect.
Kind of, yes. And also Batman v Superman. So like I will say this has been consistent in DCEU, so I can't really fault this movie for that. So that's my personal prejudice being put on the table. So I know you probably don't have as strong of reaction to that, so that may not bother you as much. Now for the objective stuff. I'm sorry, but the CGI in this was some bullshit.
That's what I heard too.
It's like Scorpion King level bullshit.
Oh, like, it's that bad.
I think they're the same quality.
Oh man.
And like it's throughout the movie. So it was really hard for me to like they would do cool things with that kind of CGI. So it's like, dude, what? You're bringing me out of it. And it's like a good thing. Like there are some things that I actually genuinely enjoyed about this film that I thought were very inventive, but they did not have the CGI to back it up, which kind of killed the moment for me.
That's unfortunate.
Exactly.
Really unfortunate.
Yes. And like, I can't entirely fault this movie for that because given the amount of okay, I'm going to, sorry, since you put the thing up, I got to bring it up. Michael Keaton lives up to the hype.
That is very good to know because that's the main reason why I'm going to see this movie.
I was jumping up and down in my seat every fucking time he was on screen.
And I guess they were able to do, because I mean, since technology is kind of advanced since '89, they're able to do a lot more with this character in terms of the fighting style than they could back in the 80s, like 89.
Yes. And like the one minor thing, but to be honest, I was too much into it to let it bother me. There is CGI with him. Problem is, I don't care.
Well, I mean, he's like in his late 60s, isn't he? Or yeah, he's not doing his own stunts anymore, man. He didn't even do his own stunts in the first one.
And I don't care. I loved him in it. I don't care. So like, love the Michael Keaton. Everything Michael Keaton.
Yeah. Got you. Okay.
One thing surprised me. Sasha Kali or Kaja. Breakout.
That's what
legit I'm breakout. Like she was engaging. She was good. Like I was into. I actually legit want a solo film of hers because like her story and the way she played it was really well done. So that's another really good part about this film. Another positive, at sometimes negative, but another positive is the time travel aspect of the film. It's unique. It's not like they separate it from other stuff. So when they create their multiverse, it's interesting.
Okay.
They don't have the CGI to back it up, unfortunately. But still interesting. But The Flash, while they improved his powers and his display of powers and his use of powers, it just I don't like this Barry Allen, and honestly, I don't think Ezra Miller like. One of the things that's been bothering me has been in the news lately because Ezra Miller went to the premiere. Now that's the only thing they have done in terms of marketing for this film. But they've gone to the premiere, and you have the director Andy Muschietti,
yeah,
and James Gunn and a whole bunch of other people praising Ezra Miller. Now I'm not saying that they are not a good actor.
Mm-hmm.
However, they're saying like he's the only one who could play Barry Allen. I'm like, no, a lot of people could play the Barry. Grant Gustin played the Barry Allen a lot better in the TV series.
Facts.
So like, we don't need Ezra Miller. Now they did a good job, and like the two Flashes together, like seeing them interact together was really well done. That's where the special effects was shining.
Mm-hmm.
But like everything else, the special effects were lame. But like for me, this is not my Barry Allen because this is a foolish Barry Allen or one that's like on ADD on max. And while you could say yes, like this is consistent for an ADD character, and if you wanted to play Flash that way, fine.
Is he actually ADD in this?
I would say that he acts like he does.
Gotcha. Okay.
Which fine, if that's your choice. You can make a character accurate, understanding the character accurate Barry Allen. I will say this is a vast improvement from previous iterations. But that's not saying much considering the fact that we've had two introductions of Barry Allen and none of them were interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So this film just was frustrating. Like there were times I was enjoying myself and then I was taken out of it. There are times this movie was really fucking dumb and I'm like, okay, well here we are, and then it would improve. Like it was all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't understand how this can be considered the greatest superhero film of all time. Like the people who were saying that were definitely trying to like market the shit out of this. I can understand why Warner Brothers did not want to get rid of this, and fine, like they it was done, they wanted to get it out, they wanted to redo everything. Okay. There are some twists and turns, and I'm not going to ruin anything. But I was ruined, by the way. Like, if we're going to talk about spoilers for a second, I'm not going to tell what the spoiler is. But there are things in this movie that will be a surprise, a pleasant surprise for a lot of fans and also a lot of people.
Not for me.
Yeah, not for me either. So I had something really big ruined to me, like an hour before I went to see the movie. I'm not going to say what it is. But Tactix and I we learned the same thing ahead of time about 2 hours apart from each other. Y'all who are watching this, can you like report the people who are spoiling this stuff? Because it's not even been a day, guys. Like this was all done the day of the early release.
Yeah.
Like today is the release. So if you're watching this, please be careful because they like, especially on YouTube, because did you get spoiled on YouTube, T?
I did.
Yeah, so that's where I was spoiled.
Yeah, I feel not that they would ever do this because I guess there's just no way to mandate it, but like so nowadays what like a lot of stand-up comedians have been doing, and I think Dave Chappelle is the one who kind of jump-started this whole thing, was whenever you go to like a live showing of their stand-up special or whatever, what they'll do is they have you put your phone in a pouch and then they lock it at the front, so that way you're only like, in order for you to unlock it, you have to go back to the front and have like a security officer like unlock it for you.
Yeah, they can't do that in movie theaters.
Yeah, like unfortunately they can't do it for theaters because it'd be too chaotic and whatnot. But it would be a great idea to implement because of it would prevent issues like this in regards to like spoilers, because literally, like it's like you said, it was like the early release. I literally signed on YouTube, and because I'm always like, my YouTube is like basic, like the algorithm is basically fitness shit and superhero shit. That's it.
Yeah.
So and like mindfulness and all that other stuff. But mostly it's like fitness related or superhero related. So I'm scrolling through and I see the fucking thumbnail and I'm like, yeah, that's definitely what I think it is. And now that moment is ruined. And sure enough, I'm almost willing to bet that it is an end credit scene. And now I don't even need to stay at the end of the movie because
that's one of them. Like that's like basically just before the credits,
no,
and then
I'm still gonna stay, man. Come on, like let's be real. But like I'm just saying, like it's just unfortunate because not like I had to actually sign on to like a random YouTube account that I don't really use just to avoid the algorithm fucking up and like spoiling something else. Because the same thing happened to me with Far From
No Way Home.
No Way. Yes, the same thing happened with No Way Home, where it was like I had no idea. And if this is a spoiler for this movie, not The Flash, but No Way Home. If you haven't seen it by now, then you're not a fan, so you don't care. But Tobey Maguire, I saw the thumbnail, and it was Tobey Maguire. It was the scene where Tom Holland, Spider-Man, is about to stab Green Goblin with his own glider, and Tobey Maguire jumps in the way. And so that scene was all ruined for me because you know, like when you're on YouTube and you can hover over it with your cursor, and it'll literally show you the whole entire clip, right? Just without the audio. So that's basically what happened. And I was tempted to just like watch the whole thing, and then I pulled away because I'm like, I don't want to ruin it. But yeah, I mean, it was still a dope moment, but just I would have loved to have had that experience going in not knowing that was coming and being pleasantly surprised. So like I was at this point going into the movie, I expected them to show up, both of them. And sure enough, that's what I got. So it would have just been nice for me to sit into this movie, watch the end credit scene, have that scene happen, and then be like, oh, like I knew, because there was talks about this happening. And I was like, yeah, that's possible. But there was still that
that whole like uncertainty.
Yeah. And I would have liked to have had that revealed in the moment and be excited about it, because despite all of that, like it's a Batman property, right? So you know,
so I will say that like, so okay, just going back to the review of the film, like again, it's a 6.5 out of 10 for me. I will say there's a good movie in there. Like there could have been an 8 out of 10 film. And I can't judge the director too much. Like this movie has been a shit show from the get-go. Like the fact that it's been made and coherently at a 6.5, given everything that's happened in the pre-production, post-production, production, I'm not going to fault them. And I wouldn't honestly blame them too much for not having the budget for the CGI, because for all we know, Warner Brothers was like, yo, I don't even know if we can get this movie out. I'm not going to put more money in. So
that money probably went to like getting like Ezra Miller straight, you know, like all the therapy sessions and everything.
Yeah. So like the fact that the director is now confirmed to be doing the Batman Brave and Bold film under the DCEU, I can't say that's a bad choice. So I would say Batman Brave and Bold would be the first time for me to kind of see how he really can do without any of the other like bullshit that's like taking place with everything else. I still am not a huge fan of the way I'm hearing about Batman Brave and Bold, and this movie doesn't exactly raise those hopes. It just keeps them as is, because like again, there are some really interesting things about this, but I am just amazed that a lot of people were saying this was a fantastic movie. Like we were really hyped for this movie before the critical reviews, the embargo was lifted. I watched this movie now. I'm like, what movie were they watching that they had this much of a reaction to? Like, did they think this movie was going to suck? Because like that's the only way I can imagine them to being that happy with it. Now, granted, with the DCEU, I mean, this is definitely among the better DCEU films.
Here's what I think happened. I think that due to all the bad publicity that was surfacing around Ezra Miller and his whole fiasco and wild antics and whatnot, they had to do whatever they could, even getting Tom Cruise to endorse this movie with his critique about it, just to make sure that they could salvage this movie. Because I'm sure they put a lot of work into this. Like you said, this movie has been in production hell for what, close to a decade.
Yeah, like I would say like maybe 6 years.
So there you go, right? So I mean, it took a lot of work for them to get to this point and get this off the ground, and then the whole Ezra Miller thing happened, and then they had to basically figure out on the fly, okay, well, what are we going to do? Are we going to keep this guy around? Obviously him being the main character and all the wild shit that he's been doing in his personal life, we can't bring him to red carpets and have him promoting this, because it's just gonna it's just a whole mess, right? So they were kind of between a rock and a hard place. And yeah, so I think they were like screening this, because what I think, so me going into this movie, I feel like I'm going to enjoy it. I'm probably even going to be on board and give it a 7 based off of IMDb's rating, because I'm usually more on board with IMDb. I don't really go on Rotten Tomatoes all that much, but IMDb, like usually those ratings, I'm like, okay, yeah, like I can agree with that. I'm probably not going to love it, but I'm going to have a good time with it. And that's what I'm hoping for. And I think,
I think you'll be fine.
And I think they know that like there's probably a good movie in here somewhere, but because of all the shit that they had to deal with to get this off the ground, they're just trying to promote the hell out of it as much as possible so they can. Because I mean, obviously I haven't seen the movie, so I don't know how this ends and where they go from here. Only and obviously you're not going to spoil that. But if they did have any intention of continuing with Ezra Miller and this version of the Flash, then I mean, obviously they want this movie to do well enough to warrant a sequel or him show up in other iterations. Or
I'm worried that I'm really worried that they're prepping to bring him on long term, because they're really going to take the. I feel they're going to take the argument of, well, can you give people second chances? I mean, like the assaults, the breaking and entering, the endangerment and all of like children and stuff. Those are kind of hard, but like I can see like if he puts in the work and saying I had like a breakdown, it kept getting worse. That's one thing, but like grooming a child in a cult like fashion. That's a hard one.
Meanwhile, Jonathan Majors is sitting at home like, okay, you motherfuckers. Like, all right.
Jonathan Majors and also Tenor Huerto from like what you call it from Black Panther.
Yeah, that's
that one hit hard.
That one caught me off guard. I was like, bruh, you literally just broke out into the scene. What is going on? But like
yeah, I think Darcy said it best in our group chat. Like DC keeps like making all the villains the heroes, and MCU just keeps casting all the villains really accurately.
yeah. Man, it's rough, bro. It is really rough. And then
they need to start doing background checks. Like, come on, man.
No. But I sent you guys the link of like actors and actresses that like play villains really well, but are actually like really, really nice people in real life.
Except for Jack Nicholson.
Yeah, I was surprised that he was on the list, because I heard that he's kind of a dick.
He also beat a woman to the point that she can't really think very clearly and is slowly dying from like brain. Yeah, people don't really talk about that often.
I didn't know about that. Man, what's up with all these people who play Joker and then just kind of wow.
Yeah. Yeah, but anyway, so going back, I would say like among the DCEU films that like it's not, as you said, it's not saying much, but this is among the better ones. Okay, yeah, Supergirl is like the one thing I'm happy about this film is that Supergirl and Michael Keaton, we got to see them again. Mm-hmm. When Batman is on screen or Michael Keaton's on screen and you hear the Danny Elfman music, you're going to be jumping and like you're going to knock people over who are like talking, you'll punch them in the face. But like, shut up! I need to hear this because it's your childhood coming back. It's
100%.
psychological warfare, and I don't care. Psychological warfare, all the hell on me. I want to see this. But Sasha Kaje, when she is doing her Supergirl stuff, on point.
Mm-hmm.
On point. And like, I, for one, am glad that she's getting her breakout role.
I'm happy to hear that, because in terms of the look, I was a little taken aback from it initially, because that's not how I usually, like, obviously in the comics she looks vastly different.
Yeah,
at least the comics that I've seen, or the animated
series. Yeah.
So it was an interesting casting choice, but I'm hearing a lot of great things about, like, everyone's raving about her and Michael Keaton the most. And so now I'm kind of excited. And like, if she is as great as everyone says, then I hope that they keep her around. And this wasn't just a one-off where it's a series of unfortunate events where it's like, yeah, like, we're kind of like revamping the whole DCEU universe. So yeah, this is kind of like your one and done type of movie. So
but even if it is, like, she, like, I feel she will get other roles, even if it isn't superhero based off of this performance.
Yeah, but I mean, I feel like again, if she's good. Now again, I would hope that it's not a case where like she ends up getting typecast, because I think almost like a lot of people were saying like Tom Holland is kind of like on that boat right now, because, you know, everyone really knows him as Spider-Man, but like in terms of like some of his other movies, a lot of people have been shitting on them because they're like, yeah, he's just not outside of the Spider-Man stuff, he's not really a strong lead actor.
I think that's a little unfair.
No, I agree.
I feel like, but also at the same time, he's kind of like battling his own demons right now. So like, I'm happy with him taking a break and like, and coming back and like finding other projects to work on. But like, yeah, like I don't see her getting typecast, and if she does, like, at least like it's like, I feel if this is enough range for her to kind of get other types of roles.
All right. Well, I mean, I'll see. I haven't seen it yet, so
yeah. So nonetheless, I hope all of you are pleased, or at least I hope I haven't dissuaded you from watching the Flash movie, but like, help temper your expectations. We'll be doing a full review next week, or whenever we can get all three of us together, because Darcy needs to join in on that.
Yeah, I'd be really curious to hear what Darcy thinks about it, because
Me too.
I think out of all three of us, he's been the biggest fan of. Well, this isn't really technically. I mean, yeah, it's kind of in the same.
He's enjoyed the DCEU more than I have, for sure.
Yeah, I've tolerated it, and you kind of despised it.
I would say that there are a few gems. Like, I liked Wonder Woman, I liked Birds of Prey, and I liked Shazam, and I liked the Suicide Squad. But you know, that's all really.
Yeah, I'll agree with you there. I think what's it called? The Birds of Prey gets unnecessary hate. I don't understand.
Yeah,
I don't understand it. I mean, it wasn't like amazing.
It wasn't fantastic.
Movie. Yeah, but it was like enjoyable.
It was, and I like the fact that like the action sequences, I felt, yes, they needed a little bit more work. Like, they needed a better choreographer. But aside from that, I actually quite enjoyed the film.
Yeah.
Aquaman, I enjoyed, but like more because it's Jason Momoa. Like, the movie itself was stupid, but like Jason Momoa made that movie a lot of fun.
I agree, but for me, I don't think my lady, she absolutely hates that movie. I can understand why. I don't hate the movie, but it's probably not a movie that I'd be like eager to like watch
again. It's a 90s action film.
Yeah, like remember what Darcy was saying about how like when we're talking about Spider-Man, and he's like, yo, if you put that movie on, and like I was like, I'm not gonna be like, oh, like, nah, don't put that. Like, if you were to say, yo, let's watch Aquaman again, I'd be like, like I'll be like, all right, cool. We're get some pizza and
exactly. I can watch that movie of us eating, us talking, and then like making jokes about the film.
Yeah, but I'd be reluctant, is what I'll say, to watch that movie again.
Yeah. All right, moving on to our next topic. So switching universes, or I should say comic book universes, Going back to the MCU. Now, we have discussed that Marvel has been. People have been saying Marvel has been having a bad run. I will say movie-wise, it's not entirely true, but definitely TV-wise. Phase 4 was overstuffed and not everything landed. So now Phase 5 has started, and we had Ant-Man, and we had oh my God, what was after Ant-Man? What just came out?
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Guardians of the Galaxy, yes. So Guardians of the Galaxy hit home. Ant-Man collectively did not. So we're kind of back to a little bit of weak point. So the next big thing to come out is going to be Marvel's Secret Invasion. Now, this is going to be a Disney Plus TV series, 6 episodes, from the guy who did Mr. Robot. Now, we've discussed this in previous podcasts that, like, my excitement for this is pretty high. Darcy's excitement is measured, and Tactix just couldn't give a fuck right now.
Mm-hmm. Accurate.
Yeah. So what we're going to be discussing is that this comes out, I think, on the 21st, so next Wednesday.
Oh, that soon?
Yeah, it's coming. But what is about this series is that the early reactions have been interesting. Now, the reviews have been have been spread out, with some giving it like some people that I like some critics that I like are giving it like in the 80s, and then like more general people are kind of giving it in like the 50s, 60s sort of area. Now, this is only after watching the first 2 episodes, so they haven't seen the whole series. So like judging us like this from the first 2 episodes, maybe putting a lot on just those first 2. But based on what people have been saying, the early reactions have been generally, if you average everything out, they've been generally positive, like in the 70s. Well, it depends on whether you consider that positive or not. So like the things that people have said is that this is an espionage series that is a little murky in some of its direction, but it does have some standout performances. Another one says this is a very interesting conspiracy thriller that is definitely showing Nick Fury at his best, or specifically focusing on Samuel L. Jackson. Another a review is saying this is potentially Marvel's most mature title to date, especially on Disney Plus or Disney Plus made series. And then another one was saying that this, like, the cast does a really good job. There is depth and personality. There is some tension, but also some interesting direction. And finally, or actually, like, I'll just 2 more. One of them is saying, for those of you who are Star Wars fans and liked Andor, the series, they said this is Marvel's version of Andor. I know that means nothing to you, Tactix, so
Absolutely.
I'm gonna move on from that one.
Yeah.
That's for my Star Wars peeps. And then I have the last one saying that this is the Mission Impossible meets Captain America: Winter Soldier series.
Okay.
So interesting. Like, I will say that my excitement has both deepened and been measured. Like, I was like, "Ooh, here we go," and now I'm like, "Okay," but at the same time, it sounds like it's going to be giving me what I want from this series. But nonetheless, I want to hear what you think, Tactix. So, as someone who had absolutely no care in the world about this series, I'm wondering, based off these early reactions, what do you think?
Well, like you said, I had no interest in this at all, mainly because, with the exception of a few of the Marvel TV series that we've gotten, they just didn't really do all that much for me. In fact, some of them I didn't even end up completing, like finishing the entire. Well, actually, no, sorry, just one. It was just one.
Yeah, I think. Well, you also skipped a lot of episodes of She-Hulk too. Like
Yes,
Moon Knight.
agreed.
Moon Knight, you didn't finish, and
Yeah.
She-Hulk, you kind of like skipped out on.
Yeah, so another TV series, I was kind of just like, I'm really over these TV series. I'm more interested in seeing what the movie phases are going to give us. Like, I'm really excited for Fantastic Four whenever that comes out. Blade, which has been pushed back till like for another 20 years or so. So
That's the writer strike. Like all the delays for all the movies is due to the writer strike.
Yeah. But I was not interested in this until a minute ago when you said it's a mix between Mission Impossible and The Winter Soldier, both of which I really, really enjoyed. So yeah, that kind of piques my interest a little bit. And I got love for Samuel L. Jackson. I mean, the man has been in the business for so long. He's in damn near every single movie, and I just love his passion for making films. Like, he's one of those dudes where it's like he doesn't care how bad the script is. He's just like, I just want to do what I love to do, and that's act. I don't care like about making money. I just want to do films until I literally can't anymore. And I remember watching an interview of him when he was talking about how he even got involved in, or how he even got the role of Nick Fury, where basically he was in a comic book store and he saw his likeness being used as Nick Fury and he didn't consent to that. So he contacted somebody. He's like, yo, why does this motherfucker look like me? And then they basically were like, well, yeah, like he's kind of like we love your stuff, and like you're a big inspiration, and so he's basically based off of you. And so then he was like, okay, well, yo, how do I, like, if you guys do a live action movie, how do I become involved in this, right? And so that was pretty cool. So I know
I do like that story a lot.
Yeah, so I know he's really passionate about this character, and he's been great as Nick Fury. He delivers. He deserves, like, his essence is just very, very potent, and like I just love how he portrays the character. So it'd be cool to kind of see him have the limelight for once and just see where they go with this, and see how interesting they can make it without the over the top superhero aspect of it. Not to say that I wouldn't want that. I mean, if you
I was gonna say, I thought that was the thing why you didn't like that they didn't do Miss Marvel.
But I mean, it's kind of an easy pull when you have a superhero aspect, because that's mainly what a lot of people go to these movies or watch these TV shows for. They want to see the superhero characters come to life and do some like badass shit. Right. But I feel like by the sounds of it, that's not going to be the center of it. It's going to be more. It's going to be a little bit more grounded, and so it's going to be interesting to see how they can kind of pull that off without the superhero element, because it's almost like when it's a Marvel property, you're expecting that superheroism, right? But now we're not. So they really have to step their game up and give us that Winter Soldier, Mission Impossible type of vibe, right? So.
And also, like the enemy they're taking on is the Skrulls, because this is a Skrull invasion. So like they're shapeshifters. They're like Mystique, who like they just like change their form. Now, the interesting thing I am looking forward to finding out is if these Skrulls are going to be from the comics, because in the comics, Secret Invasions, they were replacing superheroes, not just government officials. So like they were genetically modified to have the powers of the people they were replacing.
So what happened to the people that they were replacing?
Though, like they were like taken like and like hidden away, sort of thing.
Oh, so they were actually like
kept
abducted.
Alive.
No, but they were abducted. Oh, okay.
They were abducted, yeah, and like they were being replaced over time, and and like the whole point of the comic book, which I hope the series captures, is like so I've not only have the like are the people that I trust people I can trust anymore, but also it's like, wait, when were they replaced? Have they always been this way, or have they only recently been this way?
So that's interesting, because now they kind of have like I don't know what you call it, but they kind of have a lifeline in terms of bringing back characters that supposedly died. So for example, it kind of cheapens it though. But like if you were to bring back Tony Stark, for example,
Yeah.
which I kind of hope that they don't do.
I basically, from what it sounds like, Robert Downey Jr. and Scarlett Johansson are definitely out.
Okay,
Like they're not.
I know ScarJo is definitely out, but Robert, I never say never, right? Because people like what's his name? Hugh Jackman said that same shit, bro. So I mean, like ScarJo has her reasons for why she's never going to return, and I respect them, and
Me too.
I wouldn't blame her if she doesn't decide to come back. But Robert Downey Jr. had a good working relationship with Marvel. There's like the only reason like he wouldn't is because he's like completely done with that character. He wants to move on to other things and doesn't want to just be known as Iron Man. Which
it doesn't make sense to replace Iron, like to have Robert Downey Jr. because like the world saw him die.
Mm-hmm.
So like anyone who comes back is like they're obviously gonna be like,
unless that was a scroll the entire time that made the sacrifice.
But it wouldn't be someone who would make that because the Skrulls wouldn't do that.
Well, I don't know. You know more about the Skrulls.
Actually, that's so. like if the Skrull was trying to avoid half his population from being snapped, he probably wouldn't give up on that either. So that's true.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Okay,
that's a good point.
Okay.
So yeah, but again, I hope that they don't do that because it just cheapens the whole death of Tony Stark because that was so impactful and made the movie for a lot of people. So I hope they don't kind of retcon that. And yeah,
I'm looking forward to seeing like people just be like, kind of like the Spider-Man pointing at each other, like, "Are you you? Are you you?"
Yeah,
and like,
yeah.
Or even actually like because like Winter Soldier, what I loved about like one of the things I loved about the movie was when like near the end when like all the Shield agents just started looking at each other and pulling the guns on each other because they're like, "Yo, like, are you on my side? Are you like are you with like Hydra and all that sort of stuff?" Oh, Emilia Clarke, I'm looking forward to her coming back. So for me,
Game of Thrones fan. So yeah.
Yeah, I know. I'm a big Game of Thrones fan. But like, yeah, I'm looking forward for the show. I really do hope you like it. I think you might, but we will see.
We will see.
All right. Okay, moving on to our final topic for the evening. So I was a friend of mine sent me a link, an image a little while ago about a question that was like posted on, I think it was on someone's Twitter. And the question was, T, do you have the image handy? Or yeah.
Yep.
So for those of you who can't see the image, I'll just read it out. It says, if you had to recommend someone watch 5 TV series to really get a feel for you and your tastes, what 5 would you pick? This person is going with series because they're not a movie person. So I found this to be a rather interesting challenge, and I posted it to my bros to kind of see what they would think. So I have my list. T, do you have your list set?
I do. Yeah, I'm ready. I kind of like when you sent me this image. I'll admit I was kind of distracted, so I didn't really read it thoroughly. So when I gave you my list off air in the WhatsApp group, I totally fucked up and
really
because I just picked my favorite TV shows that had nothing to do with me as a person. So then like you guys were all like giving your own opinions and you were like giving the reasons, and I'm like, y'all are taking this question so deeply. Like, what the fuck is going on? So when I went back and I read the question, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to revamp this list because this does not reflect me at all.
I did notice that you did like I was like, I don't see him that dark, but maybe he's just like, really sad. And
yeah,
like,
I put Black Mirror, Daredevil in there, and I'm like, y'all were probably looking at me like, yo, man, like,
but that doesn't
have to talk to you.
I would say Black Mirror is definitely something that I would be like, yo, bro, you okay at home? But like Daredevil, I would be like, that is your taste. That show is your taste.
It is. But I mean, I feel like because I'm interpreting it as like personality or like something that like really resonates with you in for specific reasons. Like I just like Daredevil because it was a crazy sick ass show, but it has I don't necessarily like relate to it in any way.
Okay, I would say that so that's interesting. So you're choosing your 5 are based off of how they relate to you.
Yeah, okay, so maybe because I know your list. I won't reveal your list, but I'd be interested to see how maybe yours relates to you, because I know you're just a big geek, but it'd be I'm curious. I'm curious to hear like your take on like what is it about these shows that reflects you as a person.
Okay, yeah. So like I would say that I did heavily focus more on taste for what I like, my taste for what I like.
Got you. Okay.
But I also like watching these you will also get a feel for who I am also.
Right.
And I'll
Right.
explain why. All right, so like let's I'll jump in for my list. So my list is Star Trek The Next Generation.
Mm-hmm.
And I see you focused
You're
on
welcome.
I guess I did tell you that I had a crush on Counselor Troy growing up.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, why did you single her out like that? Anyway, so this is in no particular order. I'm just like going on shows. So Star Trek: The Next Generation was on my list. This show, I will say, reflects both my taste and me as a person.
Uh-huh.
I loved the sci-fi aspects of this. I grew up on this show.
Uh-huh.
Like since I was 6 years old, I was watching this.
Uh-huh.
I love the diversity. I love I'm completely in love with Captain Picard. He is still my hero next to Batman. Like there's Batman and there's Captain Picard. And Batman is like kind of like what I would hope to be if I was to be a superhero. Captain Picard is what I would hope to be just as a person. And there's a lot of like discussions in this show on like multi levels about humanity, like what it means to be a human, what it means to be philosophical, what it means to be moral, what it means to be, just all that stuff. And like throw in science fiction and exploration and, learning about the human condition. This show's got it. And this show gave it to me as growing up, and like going back and rewatching it on Netflix. I can't even say certain, like, yeah, there's certain episodes that are lame as fuck. And then there's some episodes that are still hit home for me. So that's why this is on the list, because this, like, you can understand my moral mindset and like my open mindset and like my wanting to like hear everything and being empathetic. Ironically, Counselor Troy is who started me because she was the counselor, like the therapist of the ship. So there are a lot of times she's being empathetic, and I kind of learned a lot of like pillars of my empathy from her.
Interesting.
Yeah. So the next one on the list, I mean, I have to, seeing as how I just talked about it right now, Batman the Animated Series. Now, this also just, if you're in Canada or in Ontario, this also just dropped on Netflix as well. And oh my God, did I enjoy rewatching this, as we've talked about in the previous podcast. This was like, so Batman 1989 and Superman 1978 are my introductions to superheroes. This was my introduction to like the comic book lore of Batman. I watched this and then I started reading the comic books, and then I started getting to know the characters, and I was amazed with how similar the comic book characters were to what the characters were in the show. This is the beginning, the foundation, the start of my geekdom and my nerddom and my jump down the comic book rabbit hole. It all started here. So this is both my taste and also a reflection of who I am, because y'all know I'm geeky.
100%.
All right. Then going to the next show for me is Game of Thrones. Now, this is a mixture of my love for drama, my love for dialogue and like well-written arguments, and also like people stories, and also politics and strategizing, and like really good emotional like interactions, and really complicated, intricate plots. Throwing in on top of that, you also have the fantasy stuff. You know, I love fantasy, like the Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings elements, sword fighting, all that stuff. Here it is. So I will say that this, up until the last two seasons, because the last two seasons just hurt me, but everything like the first season to the sixth season, I was all into this. This had its own mythology, its own history. I turned into an encyclopedia for this. And like this, like this is hardly surprising. This was a lot of people's shit for quite a few years. So I know it wasn't yours, but like no one can say that this isn't my taste or top taste of mine. All right, next one. This is where I'm split. And this I would say is I'm split over this fourth one due to my age and also the place I am in my life. So Demon Slayer or Avatar: The Last Airbender. Because I grew up on for the last 15 years, I've been the biggest advocate for Avatar as I could be. I've made literally everyone in my life watch this. Like all the people close to me have watched this, save my parents. Like basically all my best friends, my sister, my cousins, I got them to watch Avatar: The Last Airbender because I was all about this. I shoved this show down your So like a lot of people were surprised that I kind of chose Demon Slayer, but Avatar, like it depends on where I am, because like Demon Slayer is also like in modern times kind of taken over me, and like I also shoved this show down your throat, T, and like I've done that with many other people as well. So I honestly don't know which one to choose between these two, because there's a lot of elements about Avatar: The Last Airbender that just speak to me, but also there's some like almost an equal level of those sorts of things for a much shorter amount of time has happened with Demon Slayer. So while I can't say that they're identical or that they're equal, it's just like I don't know, because the Demon Slayer is, I guess, more mature. Maybe that's why I'm siding with it right now. But like also Avatar is like it keeps pulling me back. So yeah, I don't know which one to decide for this one. So it could be either or. I'm not including both of them. I'm choosing either or, and that's dependent on like my time, like or my place.
I like it.
And then finally for my final one is Battlestar Galactica. This was kind of taking my love for Star Trek, my Game of Thrones level plot intricacies, and like multi-level characters, and like reflections of society and what humanity really is, not what we hope to be. Having those kind of like interplay, and also having some badass female characters who also just happen to be looking really good too. But just really like up until the last like half of the last season, this was just top notch for me. Like this is seeing humanity as it really is, both the good and the bad, and having some really awesome, flawed, complicated characters, and like some interesting, for the most part, plot movements and characterizations and character developments. Yeah, like this, and also some like just badass sci-fi aspects and battles. So for me, like this show kind of was like the modern day adult version of my Star Trek and like Game of Thrones love, kind of wrapped it together.
Interesting comparison.
Yeah. So that's kind of like where I am. Like I feel these 5 shows, you watch them all and then you get to like talk to me afterwards. You'll be like, okay, I see where he's like talking. Like I see where some of those elements kind of stuck with him.
Got you. Interesting. I like that list.
How about you, T? What's your list like?
Okay, so my list, in no particular order, but I think we're going to kick things off with, of course, My Hero Academia. Umar, I believe you were the one who introduced me to this show, and I'm 100% thankful that you did, because I absolutely love this show. You know me, I am a sucker for the underdog story, any underdog story, that being Rocky or even this. Like I love seeing the triumphant moments that a person who is initially seen as inferior in comparison to everyone else around him comes out on top, just out of sheer will and grit and hard work ethic. And that's always truly inspiring to me, because I grew up not having a lot, and I always felt this level of inferiority in terms of like when I had my learning disability and whatnot. And now I'm at a place.
Deku.
Yeah, like I'm at a place in my life where like I'm applying myself and I'm working and I'm busting my ass and I'm finding things that work for me in terms of how I learn and whatnot, and making myself physically, mentally, emotionally stronger with everything that I'm doing. And I feel like Deku, his character really embodies that, and so it's really cool to see that in anime form. And it like watching this show and seeing the progress of not just Deku but everyone is truly inspiring and motivating for me. So like if I was to tell anyone like this is what represents me or this is what like I'm into, like they could easily look at that if they know me and be like, yeah, that's totally you 100%. So that was my reason for choosing My Hero Academia.
One quick question. Would you say that it also reflects what your ideas of like superhero genre should be?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like anime takes a very deep perspective on whatever genre they're in, whether it's like in the superhero format or you know, if it's something in the vein of like the Demon Slayer. They really go more in depth. I feel like they're like with some of the Western animated shows, there's a lot of fluff. There's a lot of like it's surface level stuff, right? Whereas with anime, it's completely different, and it really draws you in, and you like in a weird way, you resonate with the characters more, right? So to answer your question, yes,
got it.
Yeah. So yeah, that's one on the list. The second one,
ooh.
Yeah, I pulled a U and I split the two because I mean without Batman the Animated Series, there would be no Batman Beyond. And as I've said numerous times on this show, I was very, very resistant of the Batman Beyond show. In fact, when it first aired, I refused to watch it because I'm like, this is not my Batman.
A lot of people did.
Kevin Conroy is my Batman, and I will stick with that. I will die on that hill every time because I love that Batman animated series. Like I remember coming home from school, my mom would make me like a bowl of soup. Lipton, it was like Lipton soup. So she didn't make it. She just basically heated it up in the microwave.
She made you soup, man.
But so, and then I would just sit there and in my little Ninja Turtles chair, and I would watch this shit like 30 minutes every day. And it was such a great moment for me because like anyone who knows me, like this should have been number one, but like I said, this is not in any particular order. But anyone who knows me knows I got a Batman pillow right behind me. I got a Batman lamp behind me. Like I am a avid Batman fan. I have been ever since I was 3 years old, and it continues to progress. Like it's gotten to the point where like on Instagram, if a person finds like a meme that's anyhow Batman related, they will tag me in it all the time. So like people know my obsession with Batman already, and like they're always getting me Batman memorabilia and stuff like that. So yeah, this is part of the reason why this is on my list, and Batman being my favorite superhero ever. I just like what he embodies. And again, he's not a character who has superpowers. It's his own physical prowess and his dedication to his work ethic and his life mission is what makes him superior and able to stand amongst the greats like Superman and the Flash and all of them. So you got to respect the man for that. So yeah, that's the reason for that. The next one is The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And say what you will about Will Smith right now, you know, I don't care.
It was a slap. I'm leaving it at that. He just had a slap. That's all.
It like we're all over it. We're past it. This show, and this is one of the adjustments that I made because this show really solidified my humor. And if you've ever like
I hear that
watched like my YouTube videos, a lot of my comedy came from this show. A lot of references I used came from this show because this show, like I grew up on this show. I love this show. When I was sick with, I think I had COVID, like when it was like first thing, this is what I watched when I was sick in bed. I went back and I rewatched the entire, because I couldn't do anything else. So I went back and I rewatched the entire series. Some of the episodes definitely don't hold up by today's standards, but still enjoyable. A lot of the jokes still landed for me, and it will forever be a staple in my growing up experience. And Yeah, a
No,
lot
it's
of great
not.
movies. Yeah, no, it's not. It's not. And
It
then
just
of
says
course,
jam.
yeah, and then of course we have the
Oh,
the
Avery
famous
Brooks,
the famous scene. Yeah, like rest in peace, Uncle Phil. And
Uncle
this whole
Phil.
moment, yeah,
He
that
was
was
all of
great.
our dads.
He was all of our dads, exactly. And a lot of great moments in that. And yeah, it's forever going to be in my list for sure. So
100%.
had to give it to Fresh Prince. The next one is Cobra Kai.
Interesting.
Now, I never thought I would actually enjoy this show, despite the fact that I absolutely loved the Karate Kid growing up. It was one of my. It's not something I advertised a whole lot, but it was one of my. It was definitely in my top 10 favorite movies because I love the whole concept of like the wax on, wax off. It might be a little corny now, but at that time, it was just cool to see like how you can take some like a simple concept, a simple mundane concept, and turn it into a karate move. Now, that's not really practical in real life, but for the sake of the movie, it reminded me in a lot of ways of like Bruce Lee's philosophy in that regard. And
Okay.
so Karate Kid for me was always like a special. The series as a whole was always a special movie for me growing up. And then when they did Cobra Kai, I saw the trailer on YouTube and I was like, what is this bullshit? This looks whack as hell. And when you admittedly, when you watch the trailer, it looks super cheesy. And I'll admit I was curious though, because I'm like, it's the Karate Kid, but it looked like a parody of the Karate Kid. But I was so curious because I'm like, I loved Karate Kid. So I went and I checked it out. And the first episode, I was like, oh, this is corny as fuck, man. I don't know about this movie. I don't know about this show. But I stuck with my 3-episode rule. And
Right.
honestly, it grew on me and then I continued watching, and then I really appreciated a lot of the nostalgia that they had. And yeah, it grew on me. And again, it's one of those underdog stories where it's like you're rooting for the person that has less than or is inferior to the others, and like you're seeing their progression, like they're starting from nothing and they're building their way up. It's also a redemption story. So like a guy who used to be the villain is now, he's still an asshole, but like there's redeemable qualities about him that you end up really liking. And then he has his complete like 180 where he just turns, he transforms, and you're now okay, now I can see you as the hero, which is interesting because you were the villain for so long in the previous film. So yeah, I love this. I'm all caught up. I can't wait for the final season. And yeah, I love this show. This show is great.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think that's 4. So my 5th one is going to be completely unexpected. Umar, you probably never even heard of this show, but there's a reason why I put this.
Because if I remember correctly, your oldest Black Mirror was your 5th one.
Yes, but Black Mirror doesn't represent me at all. Like I'm nowhere near that dark or that skeptical of technology. So like,
or fucked up.
So I felt a little odd about having that on my list because I'm like, this.
Okay.
I don't want people to get the wrong idea about me and my personality. I'm a nice guy, guys. I'm a nice guy. But my last one is Being Erica. Now
I love this show.
Boom. Okay, there we go. I thought you were gonna be like, "What the fuck is this?" But yeah, Being Erica.
Yo, I had a huge crush on her too.
So I saw this late. I didn't see it when it first aired, but
I saw this like maybe 3 years ago, 4 years ago.
Someone, like an old friend of mine, recommended this to me because it was around the time when I was going through a really tough time in my life. And yeah, it was a very emotional period for me, and I became very reclusive and like didn't really reveal a whole lot to like any of my friends. So not a lot of people knew I was struggling in this regard. You knew at the time, but yeah, I became very isolated. And then this friend of mine, she recommended this show, and she's like, yeah, just try to get through the first season. It's a little bit cheesy, but honestly, there's a lot to this show that, I think it's going to really resonate with you. And it's going to open up, it's going to give you a different perspective on life and how things turned out compared to how things could have turned out. So for those of you guys who are unfamiliar with this show, it's basically about this girl Erica who is I think she's a struggling journalist or something like that, or she's trying to be a writer. And
it's a Canadian comedy drama series. It ran in like 2009 to 2011.
Yeah,
and she was she was basically someone who didn't even have a job. Like she's the family screw up.
Right.
And it's because like she had all these like traumas that look like these micro traumas.
Yeah, like
and
her brother died in a fire when she was really young, and like
she kept making mistakes, and like she had like all these. Basically, she had made a list of regrets, and her therapist kind of is a time traveler who helps her kind of resolve those things.
Yeah, so he gives her the opportunity to go back in time and rewrite certain parts of her past, but obviously it's kind of like the butterfly effect. When you change something in the past, it has a rippling effect in the future, and so regardless of what she changes, she has to deal with the consequences coming into the future. And so it kind of draws the question of like, okay, well, if there are things in my past that I regret, are there things in my past that I regret? And if so, and I had the opportunity to travel back in time and rewrite those wrongs or change those things, would I do it knowing that there's a risk that the results of that change might be worse in the future than what they are right now? And so it really it harps on like gratitude and like, reaping what you sow, and just living in the moment, living in the now, and appreciating where your life is, and understanding that where you are at this given moment is where you're supposed to be. Right. And so that for me was a huge reflection, because that's something that I kind of promote with a lot of my clients that I work with, being a health coach. And so it really stood out for me, and it helped me in a lot of ways. It was very, very cathartic and therapeutic for me, and it got me out of that dark time or that dark period that I was going through. And so, yeah, I had to give credit to this show, because it left a very big imprint on my brain, my heart, everything.
I did not see that coming, and
no, you didn't.
Interestingly, you and I both love this series and never actually told each other about it.
I didn't even know you knew about it, to be honest.
Likewise, like, I actually find this to be really fascinating.
Yeah, but I thoroughly enjoyed this show.
I would say that so it ran for 4 seasons. I would say the last season kind of like they were it was definitely shorter. You could tell like this thing was like constantly trying to fight being canceled.
Yeah.
Thankfully it lasted as long as it did.
Yeah.
I would say that it ended off on a good note. If they kept going, I think it would have become problematic.
Stale. Yeah. It had a good run, and I think like by the 4th season, I was kind of like, I feel like they're running out of ideas, and they're exhausting this show a little bit. Maybe it's good to like end on a high note, which they did, and I felt like they wrapped it up nicely. So
yeah,
I was good with the conclusion.
I am pleasantly so. I love your list, man. I love your list.
Likewise.
Likewise. All right. Well, that we are done with the agenda for today. So T, I'm going to pass it back to you for our final statements.
All right. Well, that'll be it for today's show, the Geeky Bros Podcast. And next week we'll most likely be on again. I don't know if Darcy will be joining us, but if he's not, then we'll definitely be doing the Flash review, because by that point, hopefully we'll all have seen it by then, because I'm trying to avoid as many spoilers as possible. So I need to see this movie like immediately. And Darcy, I recommend that you do the same, brother. I know you said Tuesday, but try to see it earlier than that. If you can.
I'm so worried for you, bro. Just
disconnect your internet. Just stay away, bro. Just stay away, bro. Go out in nature and enjoy yourself for a few days. Go find yourself. But that'll do it for today's show. Thank you guys for tuning in or listening wherever you are. Be sure to like, favorite, and subscribe as always, and we'll see you guys next time. I am your boy Tactix.
And this is Big Geek Umar. Live long and prosper, y'all.